Hey, word to the wise, anybody that is selling independent consulting services, when you hear, I'll have you talk to my procurement department, you might as well just say, thanks. It's been wonderful talking to you. Have a nice life.
Welcome to the Value Factory Podcast, brought to you by One Accord. We're all about helping businesses thrive and grow through leadership, strategy, and meaningful impact. Now, whether you're a seasoned executive or just starting out, our goal is to provide insights and inspiration to help you navigate your journey. Thanks for tuning in.
All right. Well, welcome everyone again to a new episode of the Value Factory. I'm really delighted to have Harrison Schenck here today with me today, my friend, and actually partner in a new endeavor. We'll get into that in just a moment. But today's episode is going to focus on a topic that comes up for me regularly, which is folks want to join One Accord as a consultant. Former executives, C-suite executives reach out to me and say, hey, I want to do the consulting work, the fractional and interim work that you guys do. And here's my resume, and I think I'd be a great addition to your team. And a lot of folks struggle in making that transition from U2 to independent consultant. That's a problem that Harrison has found a solution for. So I'm delighted to get into that. Harrison, welcome to the Value Factory.
Hey, Nick, I'm grateful to be here. I've been looking forward to this since we set it up, and I'm excited to chat with you.
It's going to be good. Before we go into kind of the solution, I've given a little teaser on the problem. Let's let the folks that are listening know who you are and how you got to where you're at today.
Yeah. I'll give the high level, the shortest version I possibly can. Try not to be too long winded as my default, which is my default. But I'm a lawyer by training. I graduated from law school about 10 years ago now, and rather than practice law, I got attracted by an offer into the startup world. And so I joined a sports marketing startup straight out of school. And funny enough, I don't think I've told you this, Nick, but the founder, who was my boss of that startup, was actually an ex-Deloitte guy. So okay. He was like a year or two away from partner at Deloitte and realized that wasn't the life he wanted. And so he went and did this crazy startup thing, and he got me on board to help grow it. And we grew it from a little 400,000 when I started. And it was going to be, we were projecting 10 million by my fourth or fifth year with the company. And that year happened to be 20. So when that happened, that projected revenue that we were so excited about went down by 80% overnight. So we were now looking at $2 million. We built this relatively large team for our size, and I had hired the team, and they were my people, and I had to let them all go. And that was May of 2020. And so this is, I've been in the workforce after grad school for whatever it was, almost 5 years at that point. And that was my first inclination that, maybe this more traditional path of you go work for a company and you have this full team, maybe it's not as safe as I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my first thought, well, at some point I want to be the one who's driving the bus, and I want to be the one I want it to be on me. And I know we're going to talk a lot about that kind of when you're truly on your own and what that's like. But fast forward, so my first son was also born that year. About the same month, I had to lay off our team in 2020, May of 2020. And that just further made me realize that, I want more security than I'm feeling. And even though I'm doing what everyone tells me is the smart kind of secure thing to do. And so I embarked on this journey, this several year journey of solo entrepreneurship. And it started with posting on Twitter. And I actually grew a very large following on Twitter and Instagram on the back of just my content. I was talking about being a dad and what I thought, my thoughts as a new dad, and things I wanted my son to know. And that went on for a year in 2021. I'd grown this large following. I was still at my company, but I hadn't made any money on my own. I hadn't done anything to generate income on my own. I was still relying on the same company that I joined out of law school. And I was traveling for that company. I was traveling 10, 15 times a year. We had events all over North America that I would travel to. And I was in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and my phone rang, and it was my wife, and she was FaceTiming, and it was our son. She was showing me our son, who was about to be 1 year old, and he was taking his very first steps. And I missed that moment because I was traveling for my career. And that one, was a year off from when I had to lay off my team. And that was the pivotal moment for me of like, I've got to figure this thing out. Because not
Yeah.
only is it not secure, I had to lay off all these people that I'd become close with, and now it's taken me away from my family. This isn't what I thought it would be. This isn't what I signed up for. And went on, continued on my entrepreneurial journey. Finally, started selling things, just inventing things to sell, services to sell to whoever would listen to me.
Let me
And yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
just you've shared this, like I've heard this part of your story,
yeah.
spent a fair bit of time together, and I connect into that being a father for the first time and for the second time, and I've got 4 kids now, and the thing that was the most important to me in those early years was being there with the kids. And now I had a great W-2. I was a banker for 25 years. And I've said jokingly and literally, I was a fat and happy banker. There's, some of my story. But that W-2 job afforded me vacation. I mean, a banker gets 10 paid holidays a year, now 11. I had 4 weeks of vacation, 2 weeks of sick time, a 401k. I mean, the list of benefits just went on and on and on. So I was able to live a life that I would call really balanced, but also really secure in that industry. The appeal to me to do something else came from a different place.
Mm-hmm.
What you're talking about, though, is like deeply personal. It was a lack of security, but also a misalignment with your values. Like you're a dad, probably before most other things.
Well, that's my first best title.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to hang out there because I'm sure there are a lot of people who are interested in this lifestyle of being an independent consultant, contractor, fractional, like an entrepreneur, whatever it is, that are drawn into that, for the personal reasons, lifestyle reasons. And so I just want to acknowledge that because you're about to go in your story to making that transition to the land of milk and honey when it was more like the desert, maybe not for 40 years, but it wasn't the land of milk and honey, right?
A couple years, yeah.
Yeah. But you did something that I didn't do, which is you were kind of building a side hustle while you had the W-2. And in my experience, I quit cold turkey.
Yeah.
So let's go and more of your story.
Yeah. And I look at my career that I had at that point. Granted, the path I chose, while it still seemed secure to me, like we were still a startup, and so there's still the inherent risk, which we saw when COVID hit. So it's certainly less secure than a lot of jobs. But what really kicked me into gear was exactly what you said, Nick, which is I'm missing stuff, and that's never okay. Like, you pay me $10 million a year, I'm not going to miss birthdays. I'm not gonna that's just not ever gonna be worth it. And that's what it was for me. So I just started. I've always had one thing that I'm fortunate is whatever the opposite of imposter syndrome is. Maybe it's Dunning-Kruger syndrome. I have that. I was really comfortable just being like offering services to people and being like, I don't know if I can figure this out. I'll make it fair. I'll make it risk-free, but I'm gonna build a parachute on the way down. It's kind of was my philosophy. Yeah. And that was my philosophy for a lot of these early things I was doing. Like I was pitching B2B consulting / agency kind of hybrid work, charging people $8,000 a month to manage their content, which as a true beginner was a lot of people would be frightened by that. I was never frightened by that because I knew I would figure it out. I knew I would stay a step ahead of the game.
And I want to double click into this.
Yeah.
Because, I would fear that someone might hear you say that and think, well, oh, you're just peddling crap. But that's not the case. So let's show some receipts here for just a second. How big is your social media platform today?
About 1 million followers right now.
Okay. So just for the record, when you're talking about an engagement that's, 10,000 a month, you're helping people do what you have done.
I'm helping people do what I've done, and every engagement that I've ever sold, this is really important for anyone starting out, and this is where I think a lot of beginners go wrong, is they forget about what a business actually cares about. What does a business care about? They don't care about anything other than keeping the lights on. And that's the first priority always. And how do they keep the lights on? They have to be profitable. And if you can't show a direct line between the services that you provide to your business and how that's profitable to them, they're going to make more money than they pay me. And if not, I'm going to give them the money back. Because if you don't want me to have your money, I want it even less. Yeah. And so that was the offers, for lack of a better word, that I would put together for these businesses, it wasn't just, hey, let me make your Instagram content. It's what's your average order value? What's your average lifetime value of a customer? What's your current conversion rate on your website? What's your sales funnel? What are we doing right now to bring money to the company? And everything I'm going to do is going to ladder towards those. So if I knew I had to drive 100 clicks to a website to make them $1,000, well, then I need to drive 1,000 clicks to make them $10,000, and then I'm profitable. And so that was the way I approached it, and that was the way, to this day, all the people that I work with, that's what we teach. And I think a lot of people miss out on that when they're.
I think so too. And so I've witnessed you. There's two things that I've watched you do. A good buddy of mine will say, success leaves clues. So these are some breadcrumbs that I've picked up that you didn't even know you were dropping. Number one, when I'm talking to you about your business, what you're doing today, which is exceptional, that's why I'm partnering with you, is you can walk me through the data. This many views converts to this many calls converts to this many closed deals. And you know that. And so you can just back it all the way up and say, this is the lever that I pull.
Mm-hmm.
You got real clarity there. But the real magic was we were together having a meal, and there was a young man at the table who was talking about his role in a family business. And the question that you asked him was so good. You probably don't even remember this. You said to him, how do you make money for your company?
Mm.
And I kind of looked at you sideways, and you were focused on his answer. That is such a great question. How do you make money for the company? And now I'm hearing you just say for yourself, I have to make money for my clients more than they pay me.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay, let's go back into the story. You're working your startup gig. You've gone through layoffs. You've gone through like just a gut-wrenching experience because you hired all those people in. They were your people.
They were my team, handpicked.
And your family's growing up, and you're in this place. So you got your side hustle going on, and now you're selling some services, and you're helping other businesses make more money than they're paying you. What's next?
Yeah, that was part of what I was doing. There were other services that I was selling. Again, it was this period of experimentation driven by desperation, driven by embarrassment. It was like, other people who had an audience like I had. I know how much. I know all those guys. I know them all, and I know how much money they're making. I know which ones are doing better than me. And I'm just sitting there like, well, what is wrong with me? So I'm like, I'm gonna figure this out one way or the other. And out of all the things I did, there was B2C coaching, there was B2C info products, there was I had a streaming app at one point. I was selling sponsorships on my content. I was doing all kinds of stuff. The most successful things that I did were exactly what we were just talking about, which was taking what I was already good at, what I was already better at than the average person, by virtue of the training that I had gotten from my Deloitte trained CEO for years working under him. I mean, I credit a lot to him. He's great. And taking that and applying it to other businesses. And I didn't even know what to call it at that point. But I was just like, what's your problem? I think I can help you. Let's set up some parameters. Let's set up some scope. And let's see if I can fix this problem in a way that's profitable. And finally, I realized that I enjoyed doing that. I got great results for the people I was helping, and it was easy to sell. And when you have those three things, that's your best signal that this is what I should be focusing on. I enjoy it enough. It gets good results for the people I'm helping, and they get it. They understand it. It solves a problem, so they buy it. And if you have those three things, you quadruple down. And that's what I did. And I turned around, I took a step back. I was like, what do we even call this? I realized, well, after 2 years in the wilderness, I'd basically reverse engineered consulting. like, oh, there you go. So that's what it is.
Yeah. And so you've figured out that Venn diagram, something I enjoy doing, solves a problem, people will buy it,
Mm-hmm.
where all those overlap. So you start posting online about what you're doing. And here's the thing, like, I've known who you are for years before we met, right? That's the great thing about building a platform. And there's a trust factor there. I mean, it wasn't just Andy Griffith, but it was the content, it was the messaging. And so you were showing the world who you are, where your integrity is, where your values are. So when you come out and start telling the story of how you've reverse engineered consulting, people say, can you show me how to do that?
Yep. Yeah. And it was overwhelming. This was around 2022. I left my job in 22 because I'd more than replaced my income. And yeah, just talked about, hey, this is what I did. It took me a long time. I messed up a lot, but here we are just sharing the story, and my DMs just overflowed. And it was so, I remember reading some of those for the first time and realizing my story is these guys' same story. And it was mostly dads. That's who my audience was. And it was, I feel trapped. I'm missing stuff that I want to be at. I want to be independent. I don't want to depend on these golden handcuffs, whatever you want to call it, anymore. Can you teach me? And so slowly on the side, I started taking on, yeah, I'll teach you. People talk about the word coach and whatever. I more than anything am a teacher, I think. And so, yeah, I'll teach you how to sell consulting, how to sell consulting. And so I was doing it one-on-one, very bespoke with individuals for a while. And slowly what I realized was that became my new Venn diagram.
Mm-hmm.
It was, oh, I enjoy this even more. These guys are loving it. They're doing great. And the pain is real. Like, it's to sell something, usually the stuff we're talking about, we're painkillers. We have to solve problems. And these guys had a problem. They had a problem and I was helping them solve it. And so it was the sales motion was easy. It was, here's what it is. Let's do it. And so that's what I started doing. And finally in June of 24, when our daughter was born, I codified everything that all the best practices that I had up to that point in helping people transition from W-2 to independent B2B consultant / fractional operator, put it into a curriculum. And that's what I do now full time. I don't do anything else. No other side businesses, nothing. I'm purely focused on it's called the Clients Through Social Incubator. And it's what we do to train people up to ultimately transition out of their W-2 using the skills that their W-2 gave them.
And I don't want to bury the headline, so I'm just going to go right to it. That your incubator is a product, a service that we've aligned on, and anyone who would be interested in coming to work for me that doesn't have already a book of business or consulting experience, so that person that wants to transition from W-2 into consulting, I'm saying to them, you have to go through Harrison's course as a prerequisite to coming on board with One Accord. So like I said, I don't want to bury the headline, but I also want to go into some of just the very real, and I frame it as the hard conversation that I have with folks that come to me and say, I want to be a consultant. But let me just paint the picture of One Accord from that perspective. We've been around 25 years. We've worked with 700 clients across the US and in a handful of countries outside the US. And what we do is we put interim and fractional C-suite operators into companies to solve problems. So we're generally engaging for 18 months to 3 years. Sometimes there's a shorter term project, but that's in the middle there. And we are generally working with closely held businesses with revenues between 25 and 100 million. And we've got some industry verticals. We work with banks and credit unions. We work with, and then a wide swath of industries that would include manufacturing, healthcare, tech, pro-serve, trades, etc. So because we are who we are, and we've been around as long as we have, every week I am approached by no less than 3 people, sometimes as many as 10. Fractional, I'm going to say wannabe fractional operators, not like wannabe as in fake posers, but people who really want to be. They want that life. People who are going to respond to your content, say, Harrison, teach me how to do this. But they'll come to me and I'll just say, like, this work is harder than you think it is. It's not easy to be successful in this business. Even as a part of a firm, I am only interested in bringing people into the team that have the ability to generate revenue for the company, which is why in that conversation that I was eavesdropping and you said to that young man, how do you make money for the company? We have a team already of exceptionally talented CEOs and COOs and CTOs and VPs of sales and so forth. So the folks that would want to come in and have this life, they have to be able to generate revenue. And by my estimation, the number is less than 10 out of 10 people that have the ability to do so coming in cold.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the problem that you solve.
It is. Yeah. And I think what you just highlighted, Nick, I think that's probably the best illustration of, I hate the word mindset, but I'm going to use the word mindset, of the mindset transition, the transformation that people have to make if they want to do this. So what you described, and I get it too. It's people coming, hey, I want to be a solo independent producer, an independent a consultant. Will you please give me a job?
Mm-hmm.
That's just not what it is. That's
Not
like
what it is.
that's not what it is. And I get it. And I'm not trying to be harsh on people because I was the same way.
I
It's
don't
like,
want to be harsh. I just want to be real. I want to tell these men and women, like, up front, that's not what it is.
yeah. And it's like, because I remember that feeling. Part of my journey that I don't talk about that much is like I was constantly looking for. I've had 3 or 4 different partnerships that were deep, like real like signed contract, like we were partners on various initiatives over the course of my journey, and that they've all ended fine. It wasn't like bad endings, but it never bared fruit that I wanted it to. And what I realized was that was a leftover remnant of my employee thinking somebody else is going to help me, is going to save me. Somebody smarter than me, more experienced than me. Basically, I need a boss. I need somebody. I need to attach myself to somebody because I didn't have the belief or whatever you want to call it that I could go out and be a real generator, income generator, rainmaker, whatever term you want to use.
We are attractive. We meaning One Accord. My firm is attractive because we provide a whole lot of support, a whole lot of back end. So when I left banking and went W-2, here's my joke. People will call me and say, "Oh yeah, I own a business. I started a company." I'm like, "Yeah, tell me about it." "Well, I got an LLC. I set up a bank account. I got this cool brand. I got business cards." "Cool. How many customers do you have?" "Well, not yet, but I'm going to be posting on LinkedIn." And then I kind of lean in depending on how close, and I say, "You don't have a business. You have a liability."
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. So my approach, I actually started making 20 phone calls a day before I had an LLC, before I had a business license. I did buy business cards. That was the only thing. But I told myself, until I have a client, I don't have a business. So that was my first objective. And I chose to do this at a time when my kids were of an age that, they were teenagers. Their life was less about me and more about their friends. And the simple fact is I worked all day, every day, like all 7 of them,
Mm-hmm.
making my own content, making phone calls, doing outreach, starting DMs, responding to DMs, making more phone calls. I worked much, much harder to build the independent consulting practice than I did when I was W-2.
Yeah. Yeah, that reminds me of something I tell new people starting out is, first, there's no possible world that exists where somebody just randomly finds you on the internet and pays you money without talking to you. And I think a lot of people, I honestly think that's what it is. Like, they think I put up my website, I got my a LinkedIn page, people are just going to find me. They're going to search smartest consultant in Arizona, and they're going to say, "How do I pay you?" So put that fantasy aside. That doesn't exist, which means the only way for you to ever get a client is to have conversations with people. That's a fact. That is indisputable based on the logic that I just laid out. Okay, great. So we all agree on that. That implies that there is a number in the universe that exists. That number is the number of people that you have to talk to in order to get one client. It is the numerator is the number of people you talk to. The denominator is the one client. Therefore, your job as a beginning consultant, solo operator, is to figure out that top number. What is it? What is it? 20? Is it 200? Is it 2,000? It doesn't matter. That number exists somewhere. And as soon as you know it, then you can repeat it. And until you know it, anything else you're doing, making a website, making an email list, making all the stuff that we love to do to waste time to avoid doing the actual stuff, until you know that number, everything else is a waste of time.
The first brand that I built cost me a lot of money, man. The logo design, the style guide, the website, and it's got mothballs on it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because where I ended up is not where I started. Okay, so let's go into a little deeper the course and what it is that you're doing with folks. Making 20 phone calls a day is necessary. It's actually, in my opinion, the hardest part of the whole thing. But once you solve that problem, then you've got a new problem, which is when somebody answers the phone, what do I say?
Yeah.
Who am I? What's my value proposition? So I don't want to go like too deep in the weeds on that, but what I would like you to do is just cover maybe chapter titles of your course and kind of what are the key areas that you're going to teach for that person that wants to become an independent consultant.
Yeah. Oh man, I could talk about. I love this stuff. So stop me if I'm too long winded, which is
Okay.
often the case. I believe I'm a teacher. I believe that teaching is not as simple as telling people what to do.
Hmm.
If it was all it took was me telling you what to do, well, like look at it. Look, I like looking at things in extremes because it's like turning up the contrast on a picture. If something's a little confusing, I look at the extreme, I turn up the contrast, and you can really see the concept. So, like, look at an extreme example like weight loss. There's been periods of time in my life I've lost significant weight. You know, you have too, Nick. We're the exceptions, and the steps to losing weight, the instruction is very simple.
Very simple.
Yeah, eat less, dude. Stop shoving food in your mouth. That's the entire course. There's not. But 70% of the population in the US are still overweight. So clearly instruction is not enough.
Right.
Clearly there has to be some other level to what we're teaching that doesn't just focus on steps and tactics, but that actually focuses on changing the default behaviors. And that's the very first thing that we do with anybody who comes through my program. Is what they want to do is make business cards and make a website and make their LinkedIn page. And I say, we're not doing any of that yet. We're not doing any of that yet because you're not ready to even have the necessary conversations to figure out what your top numerator number is. And so we have to get mentally ready first. And so we put a ton of thought into pushing people through this mental transformation from thinking like a W-2 to thinking like an entrepreneur. And nobody does anything. It doesn't take long, but it's a solid week of real deep mental work that we go through. Next
So,
thing,
yeah.
it's everything. Because if you don't have that, well, then the instruction doesn't matter. It's like, well, go lose weight, just stop eating. Well, but I have all these other things. I have this trauma. I have this overactive dopamine reward system that makes it feel really good to eat. And then I eat when I'm stressed, and all these other things that go into what it takes to lose weight. Well, so me telling you, hey, go call 20 people a day, if I'm not mentally ready for that, I'm not going to be able to do it. And so we start with that. Then we get really granular about your career experience. And like the questions I ask people, like sitting at that table in Las Vegas, I ask the same thing to these guys. We have a GPT that helps them do it. But we pull out the ways that they produce value. Value is a code name for money for the businesses that they've been at. We do that. And then we make the other big mistake beginners make is they'll do their website, they'll get their business cards. Business cards have a place because like if you're out somewhere and you want to have them. So I
Well,
get
it's only like $15 through.
right. Yeah. The problem is when people spend 6 weeks making it perfect.
I literally put my name and my phone number on a piece of cardboard.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
Everything, like I have this, startup world, minimum viable product. That's something that I bring through the entire curriculum. It's minimum viable blank. And we need minimum viable, and then we move forward. And so that's a minimum viable business card is perfect. The other thing people get wrong is they think they have to have their service completely planned out. And they think, I know I have to figure out exactly what niche I'm going to serve, and not even what niche, but like I have to get granular. It has to be, I'm going to serve dentist offices doing less than $5 million in metro areas of more than 1 million people, but only in this time zone and only who have been in business. Like that kind of stuff is totally a waste of time. And then the same thing on what you're offering, the services you're offering. So I'm going to be a supply chain, cyber supply chain expert who's going to reduce supply chain risk for this very specific type of. We don't need any of that. We need very high level understanding of how you provide value to a business. What are the skills that you have, and a general idea of where you have experience and authority. And that's probably the world that your first gigs were in banking, Nick. It's because you have the cachet. You can bring experience to the table.
Yeah. My first real client was a bank, and then a community foundation who hired me to do analysis on financing low-income housing. So it was lending and finance, then a credit union, then the State Society of CPAs. This was a nice deviation for me where I could begin to teach the leadership curriculum that I had built to young professionals, which here again is something that, I had experience in, but it was all around the kind of white collar finance industry where I had expertise and authority. But my offers were not, it has to be between the hours of, 11 and 1 p.m. Pacific time to, only a woman named Sally that,
Right.
right? Like it wasn't that narrow.
Yeah. And that is kind of one of the other big keys that we unlock for people is like, because everything else you see is like, yeah, first you make your offer, or first you make your website. Don't forget to make your website first. Like, well, you don't need a website. And then make your offer and spend 2 months, God knows how long doing that before you're finally ready to go pitch it to people. And then what happens in the 9 out of 10 times where you did all that stuff and you got the offer wrong? You made up something that nobody wanted. Then you've wasted all that time. And so the biggest shortcut is what we actually teach, which is you got this idea, you got this background in this industry, we want it broad. And you've got these levers that you can pull to make money, make new profit, reduce risk for a company. Great. That's all we need. Now we're going to go talk to people. And that's where the real work starts. And I call it's paid market research. So, and it's the biggest shortcut that nobody does the right way. It's you go and you talk to, most people have a pretty big network. I don't like starting with like your best buddies. That makes the money conversation a little tricky. You can, but I don't like it.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I like doing 1, 2 second degree connections. And like, so everyone, if they're honest, like I've got I noticed this yesterday, 1,100 people in my contact list.
And a cute picture is your back.
Oh yeah. That's our buddy. That's our oldest when he was a baby. So there you go.
Just adorable. You have 1,100 contacts, you said.
1,100 contacts. And like those 1,100 people all have 1,100 each.
Yeah.
There's, I don't know the math, but that's probably 1 million people that we have access to just from one text message or one email. And that's where we start. And then you just exactly what you did, Nick. You did it right. Is let's just talk to these people and uncover what are they struggling with and where do those things overlap with where I know I can provide value. And then we have a really specific framework that we walk through on how to have those conversations, how to take the data, the intel that you get from those conversations, convert them into what I call a SPAR offer and present that offer and sell that offer and get your first engagement.
So good. What makes One Accord, our firm, attractive is that we've got a website, we've got a marketing machine. I mean, we produce more content than I had somebody tell me the other day. I pulled up LinkedIn, Nick, and my picture was the first 6 posts on his feed.
Every time I pull up, it's you. It's me too. Yeah. Every time I see it. So
we have that content, and I actually want it to be not me, but our team. So we're shifting content mix because that's a real value proposition. That's a value that we add into, the consultant world. We also do contracts, billing, collections, and our system, we bring along a client account manager to work with, because our clients are, generally the mid-market businesses. So there's an accounting staff. Sometimes there's a procurement department. Hey, word to the wise, anybody that is selling independent consulting services, when you hear, I'll have you talk to my procurement department, you might as well just say, thanks. It's been wonderful talking to you. Have a nice life.
Put you in the black hole of bureaucracy.
Or if you do anything in the space of like training and you're talking to a large company and they say, well, I'm going to have you talk with our HR. They oversee learning and development. It's been great talking to you. Have a nice life. Right. But we negotiate there. So folks are attracted in because we can provide that. When someone is starting just independent, you got to have a contract. You have to have an MPSA. And I was like, what's an MPSA, right? It's a master professional services. It's a contract. You got to have a contract, right? You got to know how to write a scope of work that is not so narrow that like you paint yourself into a corner, but not so broad that your client basically is hiring you as a W-2 to do everything. You scoped it out at 10 hours a week and they're feeding you 30 hours a week worth of work, right? So there's some stuff to learn along the way and how to actually then deliver. But none of that matters if you can't get somebody to buy what you're selling.
That's it. Yeah. And all this stuff, what I found is the biggest resistance that people feel in doing something like this is all around the selling. Like if I told them like, hey, the first thing we're going to do is build your website, then we're going to get your LinkedIn profile right. Now we're going to make your contracts. Now we're going to learn how to do a proposal before they ever had to sell. I think people would be thrilled with that until they would buy all day long. Yeah. Until they got 6 months in and realized they hadn't made any money because they hadn't actually talked to anybody yet, which is why we flip it. And that to me is the biggest mental shift that people have to make, is getting comfortable talking about money. I can only talk to entrepreneurs anymore because the average person, how much money is your business doing? Like, what are your growth? What's your gross? What's your net? Like, tell me. I want to talk about this stuff, and I get really comfortable talking about this stuff. And I think a lot of people have some resistance around that, asking for money, asking for a deal, and that's where a lot of the growth has to happen.
Yep. How many people have gone through your course?
So since I've started the incubator, we've kept it very one-on-one. You talk to me. It's not like I'm pawning you off to my team. So we've priced it, and we deliver it in such a way where I can maintain that value. We've had 161 come through since I codified it in June of 24, and the same philosophy that I've helped these guys with was 200 guys, 200 men and women before that. So 350 people that I've helped do this.
That's a lot. In my 2 years at One Accord, I think I've talked to 200 people that want to be in this space. There is the paradigm shift, if there ever was one. I just read a long article in our local business magazine about the prominence of fractional and interim operators.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shift in the workforce from 40-hour a week W-2 into this fractional and interim operator space because small businesses, it's the right fit. It's the right fit for small businesses. I only use fractional people to fill roles. I have all of my roles in my company are fractional, and folks that work for me in operations or marketing work for a number of other people. It's almost like a reversion back to, I didn't live this long ago, but I want to say hundreds of years ago when people had a skill and they just did it for everybody in town, in the city.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So we're going back to something that is very human nature, but our current economy, and the education system isn't built for that, but you've built the education program to get people there. I just want to keep talking to you because I enjoy it so much, but we're running out of time. So just to again, I led with the headline. Where I'm at right now is we are in growth mode. One Accord is in growth mode. We've got a team of 30. I want to be a team of 100 in 3 years. The total addressable market for what we do is 100 times the size that we can serve, even at 100 consultants. Our core service is stepping into a closely held business 2 or 3 years before that business owner wants to sell. We all know about the silver tsunami. We know about how many in that baby boom generation own businesses. Their kids don't want to take over for them. There's an asset here, needs to be sold. That is atop the list of problems that we solve. And we could do this 500 times over the next 3 years and not even scratch a dent in the market. So this is where I want to go. I'm actively recruiting folks, but I have said I'm not going to bring anybody into the team that doesn't have a proven track record of generating revenue. But if they're really good at what they do too, maybe it's a chief technical officer or technology officer, maybe it's a VP of sales somewhere, maybe it's a banker. They have to go through your course as a prerequisite to be really talking to us about coming on board. To kind of anchor this, there are a lot of folks that want to become a business coach, and EOS is the premier business coach brand in the US. The book Traction got a lot of attention. EOS coaches are in every major city. The very first ever EOS coach in the Seattle market leads our strategic planning practice. He's an OG, Doug Hall. If somebody wants to sign on with EOS, there's 2 commitments that they make. Number 1 is financial. They have to write a $50,000 check. And number 2, they have to sign a 5-year non-compete so that they can become an independent contractor selling EOS's services. Right? This is the world that we're going into. So EOS provides all the framework, the back end, the branding and all of that, but the person has to make that commitment of 50 grand and then commit to 5 years. What I would say is, there's a price tag on your service. And I don't know that, that's not where we need to talk about today, but folks that would join One Accord that go through your program ought to be able to make that investment back in their first deal, which is not the case with an EOS.
No.
Right?
Yeah. That's our goal. Is everybody gets an ROI as fast as possible. We see, I'm very public about this. It's very much a standard distribution in terms of how well people do, which is what you expect from any educational program. I read that 15% of MBA students drop out and never finish. And that was the price tag on an MBA, $100,000, $200,000, depending on where you go. 1 out of 7 never even finish. Well, our numbers are way better than that. And our investment is way, way lower than that. And then we also, we have a very, very serious satisfaction guarantee policy that I'm really serious about, so that if for whatever reason it's not a good fit, you have plenty of time to I will refund you if you ask.
But I think
And that's not available in MBAs either, or EOS.
no, it isn't.
Yeah.
I would think that the upfront kind of qualifying, vetting, screening is really important, right? You're not just taking on anybody that says, oh, I'll write you a check. I want to be a fractional CTO.
No, absolutely not. In fact, right now I'm building a sales team right now. And so we just brought on a former client who is a dad who I helped build a fractional sales business, is now going to come on and help on the sales side. But right now I'm running all the sales calls. I'm taking 3-4 sales calls a day. And I told my wife yesterday, I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm Simon Cowell on the first round of American Idol. Cause it's like, tell me your idea. Some of them are just so off the wall. And I'm just like, this is never going to happen. And then some of them, you get that diamond in the rough and you're like, this guy or this girl has it. Let's do this. And that's what I'm looking for. Is I don't want to get too deep into it, but there's some very specific things that I'm screening for. And when they have it, I know like this person is going to be successful. I'm going to get them there faster than they ever would on their own. It's a great match. Let's do it. Yeah.
And I can imagine somebody that's listened all this way through, they probably want to just talk to you and say, Harrison, do I have it or not? But you've got a GPT that you built up front that will help folks understand just at a basic level, if I want to go into this space, what might I be able to offer? What is the market doing? That's a great tool to start.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can put it somewhere. It's just a link. I don't need your email address. I don't need anything. It's just a free resource. And what it does is it interviews you about your background and it points you in the right direction. It's not, now don't get it twisted. We're not making your final offer yet. We don't do that yet. But what it is doing is showing you a path or multiple paths and giving you real market data on what similar engagements and similar consultants can charge.
Yep. Wrapping up here, I mean, just kind of peer to peer, you and me both figured it out. We were in this life and we wanted this life and we figured it out. And what I'm observing that we have in common is that we'll figure it out. There's a figure it out ability in there, a willingness to try and test, but grounded in integrity. I know what I know, and I'm confident in selling what I know. I'm not going to sell anything that I don't know. It's not the game we're playing here. So first, got to know who I am. And I got to have that, what is the opposite of imposter syndrome, to go out and ask.
A little healthy Dunning-Kruger.
Yeah. And then lean in. But I didn't get to where I got alone. I paid for courses. I bought courses. I went through a good buddy had a sales course and I followed his prescription. And I had mentors and guides and sages. So, I'm standing at the kind of the threshold here. And I say, you're Simon Cowell. I say to so many people that would be interested, I just say it's not what we're looking for. We're looking for people that can generate revenue. Basically, somebody that could do it on their own and would be very successful on their own, but would choose to do it as a part of a team because that's the lifestyle that they want. That's the person that I'm looking for. And I think that's the reason why our alignment, the synergy aligns so well. So we will get the link to your GPT and your other resources when we post this online. Undoubtedly, there's going to be 5 or 6 shorts that go out on LinkedIn. We'll either tag you on it or flag you, and we can put the link to the GPT there so people can meet you and talk more. Harrison, thanks so much for hanging out. We got to do this again. It's too much fun.
It's so much fun, Nick. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to talking with you a lot more and talking with your listeners.
Awesome.